My diet has actually been horrible in the past, I can't even lie. I've been lifting for like 7 years now, and only in the past year have I really noticed a big difference in terms of how much muscle I've been building and how much weight I've been putting on. So since the beginning of the year, I've actually put on 10 kilograms of weight, with the vast majority of that being muscle. And the one variable that got me that 10 kilograms is just my diet, bro. Imagine this, okay? I showed my friend around the gym, it was around 3 years ago now. He hadn't been in the gym before, and bear in mind I'd been for like maybe 3 or 4 years at this point. So he's been in the gym almost half the amount of time that I've been in the gym. And I can't even lie, he's bigger than me now. Obviously he trains really well, but a large portion of why he's actually gotten so much bigger than me now is just because he was better at his diet than I was. He got his diet right and I didn't. Imagine how that would make you feel though. Like, I'm actually so happy that he's in this position and he's built this body that he's really proud of, and I know that he's definitely more confident in himself now. But there's obviously that kind of competitive feel that a lot of guys have within each other. Even if it's just a friendly kind of competition, which is what I have with my friend here, there's still a competition there. So the fact that he's actually gotten bigger than me with almost half the time in the gym, it makes me think like, damn, I wish I had adjusted my diet like how it's been for the last year, over like the last 3 years or the last 7 even. So in this video, I'm going to be telling you the diet that got me the 10 kilograms of weight added on, so maybe you can do it a bit earlier than I did and you can waste less time. The number one mistake that I made with my diet for years and years and years was I let my ego get in the way of getting the calories in. So this is actually a difficult point to kind of digest, you see, because for years and years I felt as though only if I was making a recipe that was like high in protein and high in calories, but it had to be like chicken that was seasoned perfectly with like some potatoes out of like some like recipe book, and I would look at these recipe books and it would have like 12 ingredients, and I would be planning out my week thinking like, oh yeah, I'll make that twice, then I'll make this other recipe with 12 ingredients, then this other recipe and this other recipe. Like, I was thinking I was going to make one of these every single day, but I learnt the hard way that is just not the case. What's worse as well is if I felt like I wasn't doing it to my maximum capacity, then I would just like flunk off, and I would just either just not eat as much as I should have, or I would just go and get like a Uber Eats KFC or something. It's like, what? I would just fall completely off the wagon because my ego was getting in the way. I thought I was better than just putting like a cook in the bag chicken in the oven and then just going about my day. I thought that I had to season it myself and I had to do all of this. I was just making it harder for myself. So before I actually mention any of the tactics that I've used in the last year, I have to say that it's also really important to just be easy on yourself and be forgiving if you ever fall off the wagon, just because getting back on it, getting back on your streak is vital. Consistency is key, but no one's consistent all of the time, and especially not when they're beginning. There's days when I can eat junk food. I mean, it was my birthday not too long ago, so I was having chocolate after chocolate, and I had chocolate cake, and there was like bars of chocolate and apple crumble and ice cream, and it was really lovely and it was delicious. But in my opinion, I think that's completely fine. You can live a little in life as long as you just gain your rhythm back. So that's actually going to be my step one, is just be forgiving and be patient with yourself. Step 2, find how much you need to eat. The calorie counter is a tool that I've put in the description of this video. On this website you can find your maintenance caloric intake. Now, it's not 100% accurate and it's never going to be over the internet, but it's something to go off. So for example, with my current weight and with my height and with my age as well, and the amount of exercise that I do, it's something around 2,800 calories that it would take for me to maintain my weight. It would be 2,400 for me to cut down, and then 2,000 for me to cut down drastically. So what we want to do is, once you've got your maintenance calories, add 15 to 20% on top of that. And that should be how many calories that you're aiming to get in order to bulk. For example, if I add on top of my maintenance calories, which is 2,800, 20%, it will be 3,300, which is about what I've been aiming for the last year. I think honestly some people might consider that a little bit extreme to go 20%, even maybe 15%. But if you're someone like me who just happens to have an extremely stubborn body when it comes to putting on weight, honestly, aiming for the stars and landing on the moon might be the best way of going around this bulk. Now that you've got your calories, let's go through what you should be eating. So step 3 is, what do I eat? Not all calories are made the same. If you have 2,500 calories of cheeseburgers, it's not going to be the same as having 2,500 calories of chicken breast, steak, and sweet potatoes. It's just not the same. If you were to clone me and I were to have 2,500 calories of McDonald's every day, and my clone were to have 2,500 calories of chicken breast and sweet potato every day, although we have the same calories, we're going to be completely different. He's going to be leagues above me when it comes to physique, power, strength, almost everything. This is because there's always a good and bad side to each nutrient. There is a good protein and there is a less good protein. There is a bad fat and there is a good fat, as well as a good carb and a bad carb as well. So through the confusion, we should be able to come to a few clear answers. We want simple 3 to 5 ingredient meals with good protein, good fats, and good carbs as well as vegetables. So let's start with protein. My go-to protein is whole chickens. Now you can just get the whole chicken yourself and season it, or you can have roast in the bag chickens, which I've started to use very consistently these days just because they are so convenient to use. You just put them in the oven, forget about it for like 70 minutes, and then do some little adjustments to it and then take it out. It's so simple. It might have some additional ingredients that we don't want, but oftentimes for myself, that's something that I'm actually willing to sacrifice. I usually aim for 2 grams per kilogram per day. So for example, if I'm 80 kilograms, I'll be having 160 grams of protein at a minimum, that is. If you're new to bulking, maybe aim for 1.4 grams per kilogram a day, just because your body will have to get used to processing so many proteins. But going any lower than this will not be optimal at all. So definitely start at 1.4, I would suggest. My list of proteins that I have in a week is eggs. They are really high in protein, have a great nutritional profile, and have really good fats, especially in the egg whites themselves. So I have 4 to 5 of those in the morning. Usually with an avocado, but they're actually out of season at the minute, so I don't have them so much. Whole chickens, which are very protein dense, especially for how many calories you get. This way you can actually end up eating more of it because it will take you longer to get full because you'll be getting less calories. So whole chickens are actually really good for hitting your protein goals. I have ribeye steaks. I used to have rump steak quite a lot, but now I have ribeyes just as kind of my weekly treat. Again, really good nutritional profile. They have really healthy proteins. So steaks actually provide a lot of vitamins and minerals, which can contribute to muscle growth as well. And it's also densely packed with amino acids, which is the more effective kind of proteins. They're also densely packed with fat as well, which is really good for getting those calories in, but it's not the healthiest kind of fats that we could be looking for. So I would say don't go too overboard unless you do your own research, of course. I usually have 2 to 3 of these a week. Salmon fillets, which are full of healthy fats and omega-3s. Chicken wings, drumsticks or thighs are super cheap options, and still up there with some of the best protein options as well. As well as unflavoured whey protein, which is just super convenient for hitting your protein targets. On the left of the screen will be more protein options as well for you to use. These are just the ones that are best for bulking and just have the best nutrients to help fuel your bulk. While you're looking at that, I've obviously only included animal proteins here just because it's better broken down in the body. It's just better digested. And I personally am not a vegan or a vegetarian. But if you are, then I would suggest taking an amino acid supplement as well as a B12 supplement because you're not going to get that naturally from your diet. People have been told from fake fraudulent studies that fat causes weight gain and it's not sugar and is bad for us, but that's anything but the truth. Fat is very healthy for you. It helps create cholesterol, which you've also been told is really bad for us, but it's actually not. Cholesterol is actually used to create the hormones testosterone and estrogen, used to utilize vitamin D and produce other hormones as well. But there is a good and a bad cholesterol. There's HDL cholesterol and there's LDL cholesterol. HDL is good, LDL is bad. So let's keep that in mind as I go through the fat section. Avocados, nuts, seeds, eggs, salmon, mackerel, crustaceans, and eggs all have a high amount of the good fats that we need. Stay away from anything that is processed and has loads of saturated fats in it because that's been shown to boost the bad cholesterol. Unfortunately, fatty red meat is in this category as well, where it's widely considered to have the bad kind of fat. But I think for me, this is up to your own discretion. If this is something that you really don't want to mess with, then that's fair enough. I am still armed with this information, but I still choose to eat steaks just because it just provides so many different benefits that outweigh that danger for me personally. We also cook our foods in fats. So the cheapest, healthier cooking oils is probably refined olive oil and sunflower seed oil. The next best is avocado oil, but that one's quite expensive. I personally actually use grass-fed butter. Now, it does actually have a lot of those bad fats in it, the saturated fats, but grass-fed butter is actually believed to have a better nutritional profile and is also believed to have a lot more of those good fats in it than grain-fed butters. These foods that are quite high in fat are actually really calorically dense, so it's really good for bulking to make sure that you get some of these in. Making sure that you're getting these healthy fats in will not only make you more generally healthy, but it will also contribute to you getting more healthy cholesterol. And that cholesterol will create testosterone and estrogen, testosterone in particular being really good for muscle growth. I would recommend that for good fats, you could start with avocados, nuts, salmon, and eggs. So these are all really good for healthy fats, really good nutritional profiles, and also quite calorically dense, so it's quite good for bulking. Carbs. Carbs aren't all bad. Carbs go hand in hand with sugar. You really can't have a carb without having a sugar. Sometimes the sugar has higher levels, sometimes it has lower levels, but either way you can't really avoid it. Now for overall health, sugar you should really try and avoid, but for muscle growth in particular, sugar isn't too bad. That's because the carbs and the glucose actually help fuel your muscles so you can actually have a better workout next time. I talk a lot about carbs in my previous video, so you can try that one out. There'll be like a card, I don't know which side it'll be on. So click that one if you want to hear more about carbs, but in general I would say try and have whole grain stuff. So for example, use brown rice and rye bread, stuff like that. I would suggest having nuts or even fruits as a sweet snack as well instead of just sweets. This is because not only are they lower in sugar, but they're also higher in fiber, they have better nutritional profiles, and they're usually a lot less processed than something like white rice. I personally have brown rice, sweet potatoes, and rye bread, but any of the following on the left will work as well. Vegetables. I really can't think about any vegetables that are particularly bad for you. As long as you're getting them in, you'll probably be fine. I would say in general, the easiest ones to make and the ones that are best for you is something like broccoli, asparagus, kale, I would say, parsnips and carrots. In particular, something like broccoli, asparagus and carrots, you could just put them on top of the rice cooker and they can steam. So what you do is you put the rice in the rice cooker and then you put it'll be like a little steaming rack that you put on top and then you put the lid on. It's just one less step, it just makes it a lot more easier. That's how I've done my vegetables for a very long time, and it's just one less step to think about. Fruits. Consuming fruits before a workout can be really beneficial for some people and not beneficial for some others. For example, when I usually have the sugars that are provided from fruits, which is fructose, I can actually feel a lot more lethargic and I can actually feel a lot more tired. This is because, as opposed to glucose, which is just normal sugar, the body can't actually digest fructose as well as glucose. This is because fructose actually takes energy away from your muscles, as opposed to glucose that has almost a limit to how much it can use. So if you're someone like me, I would actually suggest eating fruits that have additional benefits. So, for example, I usually have pineapple a lot of the time. This is because pineapple actually have digestive enzymes in them that actually helps break down protein. So that's almost an additional benefit. Same with something like bananas. Bananas are quite calorically dense, but they're also really high in potassium, which is also really good for lifting. But also what I will say is if you really love the taste of mango, then fair enough, go ahead, take it. Having something like mango would be a lot better for you than having some some Haribos. I don't know if you're like 4 years old or something. Step 4. Cooking the easy way. Almost all the foods I've mentioned today can be made super easily. Often you need to just fry them in some butter or in some oil and then they're done just in a matter of 10 minutes. Or you just need to chuck them in the oven or in the air fryer or in the rice cooker even. Some tips I have for consistently bulking is to not stress over what kind of sauces and sides that you want to make. If you're feeling under pressure to get a meal in, then don't bother. Just putting some oil on some chopped up sweet potatoes and then putting in the air fryer, and then while that's going, just frying up a salmon is completely good enough. You don't need all these fancy sauces. You don't need to make a pan sauce once your salmon is done, and you don't need to make a special kind of dip for the sweet potato. You don't need to make it more difficult for yourself. Don't get me wrong, if you feel like making something, then go ahead, definitely make it. Make like a fancy sauce for the steak, or make a really nice side if you're cooking for someone. But in general, if you're cooking for yourself and you're feeling really under pressure and you're actually feeling stressed about eating, then just doing the bare minimum is actually enough. Also, don't feel silly for not having complete meals. There's been a good few times, even in the last week probably, where I've just not felt like making a carb with my dinner. So what I do is I just put the whole chicken in the oven and then I just eat as much as I can out of that. It's not ideal, And it's not really something that I want to say, hey, you guys do this. But it's often a lot better than just getting some crap like KFC Uber Eats meal because you don't fancy making something. Like, for example, me in the past, like, I would have just not have even put the chicken in if I didn't think I would have made some sweet potato with it. Because I just thought, oh, if I'm having that, I have to have this. Well, that's just not the case. So guys, do that every week. Give it a try. Be forgiving of your mistakes. Don't stress yourself out too much. And don't expect too much of yourself, especially at the beginning of your journey. If you read like this, you'll likely get your dream physique way quicker than I ever could. And you'll probably waste a lot less time than I did. So I'm glad you've watched this video all the way to the end. Thank you. I hope you took some really good information out of it. I wish I would have watched a video like this when I was younger, but I didn't. And you did, so well done. Please like and subscribe. Okay, I love you. See ya.